Optoelectronic links in data centers connect servers across vast distances in order to communicate and carry massive amount of data. My research demonstrates different techniques for enhancing the energy efficiency and improving the performance of such links in order to support higher data throughput.
Hi, I'm Min Ai. I develop a photoacoustic imaging system through optical illumination and acoustic detection to illuminate the prostate from within the urethral using a transurethral probe. This technique will improve the detection and imaging of malignant tissue and prostate cancer.
Dr. Barrero carried out a multi-scale study in the cyclic liquefaction of granular soils. He analyzed the mechanisms involved in the loss of grain contact and developed a model for reliable simulation of liquefaction-induced deformations. His findings improve our ability to predict the behavior of granular materials during liquefaction.
Dr. Baumeister developed computer programs to analyze brain images. When applied to neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis, the study yielded novel insights into disease-related changes to the brain's structure and function. His research contributes to our understanding and assessment of brain diseases.
Dr. Tsai's research focused on improving ways of determining how regions of the brain interact with one another. She examines interaction patterns of the brainstem, representations of brain regional activity, and changes to connectivity between regions over time. This research will ultimately assist in disease evaluation and treatment assessment.
My name is Bo Fang. My PhD thesis proposes comprehensive approaches to help high-performance computing applications to detect and recover from failures.
Hello, this is Mengqi. I'm glad to introduce my PhD work, which is about how organic and inorganic water solutes affect the formation of nitrite, a byproduct in water treatment and harmful to human health. This research will impact the application of vacuum UV, a UV-based advanced oxidation process for treating micropollutants, and will act as a guidance to control the formation of nitrate.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mohammad Arafat Hussain. I investigated the feasibility of using volumetric medical images for kidney cancer prediction and prognosis. I developed novel deep neural network-based approaches for kidney cancer detection, cancer grading, and cancer staging for CT scans. These approaches will improve the ability to detect and therefore treat kidney cancer.
Dr. Karimi Biukic studies security solutions for dynamic systems within the Internet of Things such as drones and rovers. He developed mathematical-based methods to detect software vulnerabilities in mobile computer systems such as drones. His work enables the detection of malicious behaviors in autonomous IoT systems.
Dr. 정현이 developed a novel method to isolate and sequence RNA from specific single cells identified by imaging. He applied his method to sequence rare immune cell events and showed diverging decisions being made by single cells within population. This novel method will improve our understanding about how immune cells fight disease.
I'm Francisco Paz. I did my PhD in the Electrical and Computer Engineering department. I studied the use of DC microgrids and the integration of renewable power and energy storage, and developed an efficient method to detect changes in them. My research will improve the performance of DC microgrids and accelerate their deployment in renewable energy systems.
One of the important technical challenges of heavy viscose oils concern cost-effective transportation. Dr. Sarmadi used theoretical and computational methods to investigate a novel triple-layer core annular lubricated pipeline flow. Her study established a novel method for the stable and efficient transport of highly viscose oils.
Dr. Saint-Arnaud studied the weathering mechanisms of mine waste rock using automated mineralogy and long-term geochemistry data. This research improves the characterization of mine waste rock and predictions of mine drainage quality.
Hey there, my name is Hazel Hollingdale, and for my dissertation I tested the hypothesis that employing more women and people of color in finance can lead to better financial risk decisions. And what I found was that while firms with more diverse employees in risk management roles actually do have better risk outcomes, unfortunately, the diversity policies at many of these firms are really doing little to stop the hostility that many minority employees are continuing to face.
I propose a new approach to Colombian literature that focuses on the sociable nature of literary cafes, which unites a diversity of texts and analyzes them in a way that unveils writers' associations over time. My research shows an innovative way of reading literature which can be applied in different spatio-temporal contexts.
Dr. Ahmed investigated the effects of preparation design and centering on the marginal accuracy of zirconia crowns, and established an innovative method for measuring the shrinkage of zirconia crowns during processing. This research provides valuable knowledge for achieving precise fit and improving clinical success of zirconia restorations.
Hi, my name is Jerry B. I've investigated the alpha-beta-6 integrin in regulation of periodontal disease through TGF-beta1 and EGF receptor signaling. The research could be translated to a potential treatment method to reduce periodontal inflammation and bone loss. Thank you.
My research explored pedagogies for teaching Islam to children and youth, from which I discerned a three-part typology that engages with unique learner dimensions, the need for Canadian cultural relevance, and the importance of esoteric interactions. My research highlights new directions in Islamic educational research and teacher education.
I studied the experiences of gay and lesbian radiation therapists coming out at work. Using an autoethnographic narrative inquiry approach, I found that sexual orientation disclosure is dependent on context and can affect relationships with patients and co-workers in both positive and negative ways.
In this study, I investigated University of Botswana's first-year students' instruction and use of digital technologies. My findings indicated that participants' uneven digital literacy skills, as well as the various resource challenges, suggest a need for more effective integration of technologies in order to foster students' academic and professional success.
My name is Dr. Susan Fawcett. I developed a family-centered positive behavior support approach for families of young children with Down syndrome and challenging behavior, the first of its kind at the secondary tier. The program was effective in improving children's behavior, decreasing maternal stress levels, and enriching family quality of life.
Educators make numerous judgments that affect vulnerable people every day, a responsibility for which there is little institutional training or support. I explore Hannah Arendt's ideas about thinking, willing, and judging, and how these resources inform educational practice, helping educators to make ethical political judgments.
Dr. Cattell studied the role that executive functions, which are a set of cognitive processes, play in important developmental outcomes. She found that 4th and 5th grade students who had better executive functions earned higher academic grades in high school. Given its malleability, this research highlights the importance of finding ways to support executive functions at an early age.
My name is Rosa Lemon, and I'm graduating with a PhD in counseling psychology. I conducted a narrative examination of school-based trauma-informed practices. This was one of the first Canadian studies to examine trauma-informed practices from the perspective of school-based professionals. This research supports the continued development of trauma-informed practices in the education system.
Hi, I'm Dr. Hilary McBride. My research focused on women's experience of well-being during the menopausal transition, shifting the discourse from a biomedical and pathology-focused perspective to one of developmental growth and thriving.
I attend to a Welsh cultural approach to contemplative connection with the living world. As a response to climate change, my writing explores ways of knowing with trees, culture, words, and ancestors. I offer a creative, devotional, and regenerative approach to environmental and contemplative education.
Hi, this is Faith Hitaf Qadi Rashid.
For my doctoral research, I critically examined constructions of peoples of Arab descent in educational text and talk in British Columbia. My analysis revealed a discourse of othering, a discourse of barriers to teaching about peoples of Arab descent, and the importance of supporting teachers' efforts to teach in culturally relevant ways.
Hello, my name is Dr. Vanessa Radzinski, and in my dissertation I found that contrary to expectations, university mathematics knowledge plays a limited role in future high school math teachers' understanding of the secondary curriculum. I argue that mathematicians and teacher educators should work together to help future teachers understand how content expertise can impact pedagogical practice.
Dr. Wakefield studied homeschool and community beliefs about the strength and resources of culturally linguistically diverse children and families. Stakeholders viewed cultural and linguistic diversity as both a challenge and an opportunity. This research informs both practice and policy to support young children's transition to school.
I'm Dr. Warko. My research investigated Aboriginal students' sources of and access to self-worth. I modified an analysis method to fit with Indigenous oral storytelling traditions. My findings highlight Indigenous ways of healing and fostering self-worth, and contribute to culturally sensitive delivery of clinical service in conducting research. I'd like to thank the Musqueam First Nation for allowing me to complete my PhD on their land. I'd also now like to thank my family, whom without their support, I would have not been able to complete this journey. Thank you.
I'm Deborah, and for my PhD, I studied the politics of the development of a sport-focused gated community in India. I found that colonial legacies heavily influenced the design of this space, that violent forms of dispossession made land available for this development, and that flexible interpretations of law privileged some individuals and land uses over others.
I investigated differences in growth and behavior of interior Douglas fir seedlings based on presence, absence, or mixtures of close genetic relatives. My results showed that high or low plant density extremes, lower soil fungal associations, and the presence of a different species impacts seedling behavior and growth specific to that environment.
I used a synthesis of approaches such as programming, nonlinear analysis, probabilistic modeling, and analytical methods to examine the effect of cross layers on the performance of cross-laminated timber under axial compression loads. I have accomplished the projects with 42% material savings compared to the existing design practices.
With the rise of the internet, we are now getting more of our information from non-paper sources. My research looked at the strategies pulp and paper companies have been taking to adapt to the resulting decline in demand for certain types of paper. My work highlighted the broader challenges that cyclical commodity industries face when defining their turnaround strategies.
I examined the effects of environmental variability and land cover on stream ecosystems. I found that improved prediction of ecological threats depends on the indicator, and that incorporating multiple scales can increase predictive ability. This work will help ecologists better predict and understand important threats to ecosystems.
This is Liang from the Faculty of Forestry. During my study, I created a greener and highly efficient route to obtain a platform lignin product. This route showed an advance in using renewable materials for useful applications like foams and coatings. These efforts will contribute to the lofty goal of sustainable development in this century. Thank you.
Dr. Malladi developed mathematical models to optimize short-term biomass logistics and analyzed the impacts of carbon pricing policies on optimal cost and emissions of the models. The developed models were validated and applied to 2 case studies. The results help logistics companies make more informed decisions for their short-term planning.
I developed epidemic models of indirect transmission to study the role of heterogeneity, human mobility, and diffusion in the spread of infection. In addition, I investigated the co-interaction of HIV and syphilis infections among gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men, and looked at how different interventions could be combined to eliminate both infections in British Columbia.
I built a feminist, women-centered theoretical model of decision-making from women's stories, and showed that there isn't yet enough evidence for genetic testing to guide antidepressant prescribing during pregnancy. My work can support women making decisions about how to care for their mental health during pregnancy.
I studied Chinese planning practices on sustainable cities and developed a set of ecological and social metrics for Chinese eco-cities. My study contributes to urban community research, presenting a dialogic critique between Western scholars and local Chinese practitioners, and how the eco-city concept has been framed locally in China.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nandini Maharaj. I explored the meaning of pets for people with cancer. Inspired by my bulldog, Dally, I highlight the importance of meaning-making for the human-pet relationship. My findings can support patients in reflecting on their experiences, as well as bring new understandings for healthcare providers to better address the needs of patients.
I, Dr. Holly McKenzie, facilitated a project with urban Indigenous women on the homelands of the Métis and Treaty 1, Treaty 4, and Treaty 6 territories. This project highlighted the centrality of self-determination to Indigenous women's reproductive and sexual justice, as well as the need for transformative change.
Anafoyo, Anya Otonia Julian Okopitek. In thinking about resistance, reconciliation, and reclamation, I examined the haunting effects of historical events and the relationship between political and social memory. This work explores the role of the Bitekian song as a space for social and political memory, integral aspects of the decolonizing project in Uganda.
My name is Maria Tamarin and I'm graduating from the PhD in Soil Sciences at UNC. I studied beneficial bacteria in cherry tree roots. These bacteria promote plant growth and can potentially be used as environmentally friendly pesticides. I also used genomic techniques to study the microbial biodiversity of Okanagan cherry orchard soils, information critical for the understanding of cherry soil-borne diseases.
Dr. Hakim developed innovative strategies for replacing antibiotics in agri-food systems. He identified how synergistic combinations work collectively against Campylobacter jejuni. He also developed a nanoscale packaging system to inactivate this pathogenic bacterium in poultry meats to enhance public health and food safety. Thank you.
For my PhD, I investigated the behavioral and neuropathological consequences of traumatic brain injury, also known as TBI. I showed that Chimera, a rodent model of head injury, replicates many features of human TBI. In the future, I hope that Chimera can be used to validate promising drug targets to help in the treatment of TBI-BI.
I investigated the role of high-density lipoproteins, particles in the blood made of fats and proteins, in protecting brain blood vessels in Alzheimer's disease. My work shows that raising the levels of functional high-density lipoproteins through drug or lifestyle changes may protect against brain blood vessel changes and prevent Alzheimer's disease.
My doctoral studies focused on advanced prostate cancer. My work improves our understanding of the development of treatment resistance and provides a potential therapeutic target for this lethal disease.
Hi, I'm Andrea. For my PhD dissertation, I examined the epidemiology of common mental disorders in workers with a lost time, work-related musculoskeletal injury. I found that having a common mental disorder, in addition to a musculoskeletal injury, was associated with lower likelihood of achieving sustained return to work. These findings have implications for work disability management policy as well as practice.
I characterized the risk factors, dynamics, and consequences of psychosis experienced by adults living in precarious housing in Vancouver over a period of 5 years. These longitudinal studies contribute to our understanding of how psychotic symptoms evolve over time and illustrate opportunities for intervention.
Hi everyone, my name is Connie Young, and for my doctoral dissertation, I examined candidate obesity and diabetes genes. I found that reducing the amount of one gene, called PDK1, affects lipid metabolism and the heart. Further, these metabolic effects of PDK1, as well as environmental factors, are important to consider when using this gene as a potential therapeutic.
I examined multiple aspects of HPV vaccination in women living with HIV. I found that while the vaccine has good efficacy, the post-vaccination burden of oncogenic HPV suggests that cervical screening remains important. These findings will inform the World Health Organization's global strategy for eliminating cervical cancer.
Dr. Nonskevich studied how immune cells, called macrophages, contribute to inflammation in insulin-producing islets in type 2 diabetes. She showed that macrophages could either induce or resolve islet inflammation. This work could aid in the design of the therapies that may improve function of islet cells in diabetes.
Hi, my name is Matthew Sekele and I'm a proud doctoral graduate in neuroscience. For my thesis, I used fMRI and PET neuroimaging techniques to show that exercise can increase dopamine release in people with Parkinson's disease. This shows that exercise is specifically beneficial for people with Parkinson's and supports the use of exercise as an adjunct therapy.
Hi, I'm Greg. I studied lung cancer genetics, and I discovered how a new class of genes called non-coding RNAs are altered in order to drive this deadly disease, and if they may be promising clinical targets. But the most important thing I learned during my PhD was learning how to love.
I'm Catherine Wang. During my PhD, I characterized the structure of the carmagnon protein, which is mutated in people with heart rhythm disorders. My findings demonstrate that each mutation causes disease through distinct mechanisms, and this work will help to improve our understanding of heart rhythm disorders and their causes.
I studied the properties of flexible proteins that are not folded prior to binding. These proteins play critical roles in signaling and regulation by interacting with other proteins. I created a computational predictor for protein sites that bind these flexible proteins and explore the relationship with disease-causing mutations.
Hi, I am Mohammad Atiq-Zaman. I investigated the mediating role of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs in the increased risk of heart diseases among osteoarthritis patients. I also evaluated the comparative cardiovascular safety of various NSAIDs used to treat osteoarthritis. This will help to understand the link between osteoarthritis and heart disease better and help in safer treatment of osteoarthritis. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Arsenal Christos. As part of my PhD, I developed a novel experimental technique that uses nuclear physics in order to study lithium diffusion in solid materials. Using this technique, we were able to resolve several questions regarding lithium diffusion in materials such as rutile titanium dioxide, which is a crystal, and these materials could be used in the next generation lithium-ion batteries.
I studied the regulation of swarming motility in the pathogen Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which causes lung and hospital-acquired infections. My findings showed that swarming, a multicellular movement that enables pathogens to spread over surfaces, is a complex behavior that increases antibiotic resistance and influences disease virulence.
Dr. Chu improved the process of using computers to extract meaningful information from biological sequences, such as DNA. He designed computer programs to store data in probabilistic data structures, which purposely store data as approximate signatures in order to surpass the memory and speed limits of representing data perfectly.
I assessed the social and economic outcomes of an individual transferable quota ITQ fishery in British Columbia. My research identified significant failings of the ITQ management system. This research raises important questions about the design and implementation of ITQs and their negative impacts on fisheries and communities.
Hello. During my PhD, I used state-of-the-art nuclear models and statistics to study the imprints of the nucleus on light from exotic atoms, in which the nucleus is orbited by a muon instead of an electron. My work sheds light on recent experimental discrepancies and helps to illuminate our understanding of the interplay between the nucleus and light.
Hi, my name is Mariam Khalfala. I studied the development of marine fisheries in the countries of the southern Mediterranean as well as in the countries of the Arabian Peninsula. My research shows that more accessible scientific tools can be used to better assess the state of marine ecosystems and better manage fisheries resources in data-limited and economically developing regions.
I developed a sensitive method to study how the composition of the chromatin in normal blood cell precursors changes during the blood cell production and how it is altered in certain types of leukemia. My research advanced our understanding of molecular processes that regulate the production of normal and malignant blood cells.
I did my research at the intersection of physics and medicine and developed new techniques to probe the tumor microenvironment. The most promising of these techniques is called oxygen-enhanced MRI, as it supports the delivery of chemotherapies targeted at tumors whose oxygen status makes them particularly difficult to treat.
I studied responses to salmonella infection in macrophage activation states, including the tolerant state seen in sepsis. I identified differences in gene expression that may account for different levels of resistance to salmonella. This could help us to improve the ability of macrophages to resist infection and treat sepsis.
I developed two radiation therapy modalities, known as trajectory-based treatment, where the couch moves continuously. This work introduced a novel algorithm for treatment planning, which can accurately model proposed treatment modalities. This method can achieve plans superior to those generated by standard treatment planning systems.
In my thesis, I described the role of CD45 in regulating red blood cell progenitors in spleen, which protect the mice from inflammatory bowel disease by interacting with other cells. This work shows importance of CD45 as a modulator of immune responses and suggests a new therapeutic approach to treating systemic inflammation that is associated with IBD.
I examined two MRI techniques in the context of myelin health and multiple sclerosis. Through simulations, studies of tissue samples, MS, and control populations, I linked the MR measurements to the biology of MS. By establishing the robustness for probing myelin health at different field strength, I addressed a key issue for using MRI for MS.